All right, I'll call this meeting of the General Government and Finance Committee to order at 6:01 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all members are present. And with that, we will move on to citizen input. Please come up to the podium. Where'd the podium go?
But there's no.
Okay. Yeah, the podium, but there's no mic on it. All right, thanks to our AV department, we're back running again. Citizen input, anybody can please come up to the podium and please submit a yellow slip with your information on it prior to coming up to the podium. And please keep it within 3 minutes.
I would just ask Chairman Miller if I could read comments. Melanie Smythe had comments, but she had been called out of town for work. If I could read her comments and then do my own. Well, she asked me to read them for her, but it's up to your, okay. This is from Melanie Smythe, which is N140W1793 Cedar Lane. This is her comments. I see that finally the amount of dollars and the explanation for the dollars to be spent on a new police department facility have been explained. Spending ARPA funds on a feasibility study is reasonable. However, it should include the idea brought forth by a citizen of purchasing an existing building for remodeling, such as the bank building at Maple Road and Mequon Road. Now is the time to look at that concept, especially as construction costs continue to go up and our pocketbooks are emptying rapidly with all the construction the village administrator is proposing tonight. In the agenda packet, it says we have spent 1.7 million in engineering fees, I think, to date. So we will be looking forward to that number going down and suggest it should be tracked as part of the Director of Public Works report that he is working on. I really like his report. The item on tonight's village board agenda should really have been an agenda item for this group. Why is it not part of what you look at? The committees are supposed to look at items more in detail and vet issues for the village board to consider. Why did that not happen? Of concern is the apparent ramming through of millions of dollars worth of construction infrastructure costs that will likely increase taxpayers' debt now and in the future. I am requesting that as stewards of your finances, of which you swore to represent us in good faith, that a 5-year look be prepared showing the following. The financial plans of TID9 and all the other active TIDs and how the proposed costs collectively will affect taxpayers. The water rate increases over 5 years, the sewer rate increases over 5 years. The administration has only ever provided information in dribs and drabs. There has not been a clear look at a 5-year forecast of how these actions will affect our finances and taxes. It is time to do so now. Thank you. That's from Melanie Smythe. And then I just have 2 comments of my own tonight, so I'll keep it short, hopefully. And in regards to something Melanie brought up is, my question is, of course, that I look at this as the oversight committee for financial things in the village. It says general government and finance. So anything financial, I feel, goes through this board. So why would we send something directly from Public Works to the village board for action without having GGF vet it, even if it came with a recommendation? Because this action item requires not only TID borrowing, but adding to taxpayer debt. We don't have money in the TIDs to finance the $7 million proposed. It has to be general obligation bonds or some sort of taxpayer-funded instrument. I feel a committee like this should review that before we go to the village board for recommendation. And in lieu of that, we are spending money we were not told about when the Richfield IGA was proposed and passed. Hey, pass the IGA, it's great, we get $10 million worth of infrastructure. Well, now it looks like we're spending $26 to $30 million of additional money that was never put on the ballot, because I assure you that probably wouldn't have went as well as it did if that was happening. If the taxpayers knew, hey, we're on the hook for another $25–30 million to help out, to help make the project better, that's a lack of transparency. I'm sorry. And by the way, in case anyone up there does not know, this is not going very well in the village. There's a lot of people that are upset about other issues that we know have surfaced in the last week, but this is not, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Maybe you are too. Not good. So I don't know, again, first we pushed for a 2050 plan that I said, let's take time and do it right. It turns out we need it for land use. And now we're looking to push something with a small group of village staff. And unfortunately, you know what? They don't live here. Having all this infrastructure put in, we'd have no idea exactly how to pay for it. We hope it works out with Ehlers, but we're just adding to the debt load on top of the DPW, which is $45 million worth of debt or whatever, on top of this, on top of that, on top of that. Where's it going to end? It's going to end with you guys sitting up there and as village board trustees saying, what happened? People will want to know. We don't have unlimited money and we can't keep borrowing forever. Okay? So I'm concerned about that. And then something actually came up to me yesterday, which I have to bring up. It was a recent meeting I did not attend, but I had a resident actually send me a link to the meeting, which I don't know why people are doing that. They should do that for you, but sometimes they get links from people. Apparently, and one of our trustees was caught saying some things and didn't know their microphone was on. I'm not going to say the name of the trustee, although they indicated to me, but there was 4 points that were brought up. These were exact quotes. It's a radical idea to allow public comments to be read in committee meetings. That was the first quote. The second quote, as a matter of fact, there should not be public comments read even at village board meetings. Third quote, people should get off their butts and come to the meeting in person. You can't expect us to sit around reading about your comments. These are all direct quotes. And number 4, they don't get development without, if you don't do TIDs, you're not going to have any development. Now, the last point, I will briefly say that, first of all, that doesn't sound very friendly. Second of all, okay, that's fine. They didn't know their mic was on, but that's the kind of attitude that makes people compelled not to come here and even talk or show up. I'm just going to quickly say what developments we have had in this village without TIDs. Fleet Farm, Menards, Walmart, Linens and Things, Michael's, and Cousins. Literally anything on County Line Road that's on the Germantown side was not developed through TIDs. So you can't tell me that development only happens when you have TIDs, because we had hundreds of millions of dollars worth of development without TIDs. So the question is, what are we using TIDs for and why? They should be used for blighted, contaminated soil things. That's the way they worked back in the 40s. They've morphed into us using it for every kind of development, which means poor budgeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else would like to come forward? Sure.
I have a yellow card. I don't know what that is. It's the first time.
It's your information, sir. Just your name and where you live. Yeah, please do. Oh, can you push the button until the light goes out, and that's when the mic is on. It works in reverse. Let's say push on the bottom. There you go.
Say it out loud and go just a little slower for me.
Sure. Name is Stephen Olson. I'm N128W17416 Holy Hill Road. And like I said, I'm hoping that I am retiring soon. My main point in coming is that I want to know, I don't mind paying taxes, but I want to know that my money is being spent well. And with reading a few things, I'm not convinced that that's happening. And I want to make sure, I've got 35 years in engineering, construction, and cost estimating. So this is my field. I've done a lot of infrastructure. I'm good at estimating. I see some of the estimates that were done recently for some of the public work projects are using $5 a square foot for concrete. It's kind of questionable if we can keep using the things that we've been using for 10 years. So I think we got to take a better look at some of that stuff. And that's, I don't know if this is your guys' purview, but I know there's going to be another assessment on property values. The last time that it happened to me, 2 guys came up in an unmarked car, just looked like a plain sedan, jumped out of the car and came to me and said, hey, we want to go walk around inside your house and see if you got any extra bathrooms or anything like that. And I just said, you can just turn around and get the heck off my property. They did not identify who they were there, who they were, or why they were there. brought it up in a very vague way that probably ended up my house being unfairly penalized by a high estimate. And I did not have time to fight it at the time. You know, we're all busy on a lot of things. So that's most what I have to say. I'm kind of looking also at the Holy Hill infrastructure. And I really feel that anything that goes on there, even if it's part TID, but if it's going to involve any of our money, that you guys need to take a close look at it. So do you guys have the ability to view every part of what's going on there?
Yes, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to engage during public comments. That's why I'm being silent.
Oh, okay. All right, but I know that's a lot of people's concern is that maybe if there's not adequate oversight, that there's a push towards development at any cost, and that maybe, you know, maybe even some of these businesses are going to be given tax breaks for a number of years. Maybe the whole cash flow coming back into the TID is going to look a lot different than we really know at the time. So we want to be aware of things like that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward for public comment?
Make sure you submit your yellow form to me, sir, when you're finished. You can, now it's in the back of the wall.
Okay.
Thank you.
These ones right here, right?
Yeah, there are some there. Good, thank you. All right, if there's no further items, we will move on to new business. Item A, IT infrastructure equipment replacement.
Hi, this is Erin. I'm here virtually because I'm not feeling too well, but I'm here for any questions you may have about the next couple items. This project was planned for last year, but not budgeted for last year. So we budgeted it for this year within the capital projects. It came about a little over $2,000 under budget. I did do a cost estimate for a separate product that would fit us similarly. However, it was about $25,000 more. So, and that was without installation. So I think we're getting a pretty good deal for this $82,000 for switches and access points. And just so you know, this is for all of our buildings except for Public Works. That will be covered under the project plan for the new building.
All right, committee questions or motion?
Erin, oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. Erin, who is, you went out to another, you went out to two suppliers for these, for the amount that you came up with the 82,000?
Yes, I go to CDWG, which is a government purchaser who purchases on a lot of government plans. And so I went to them to check out a different product to see if we could get it at a less costly price, but it was actually more.
And was this the amount that you budgeted, about 82,000 for 2024?
Yeah, we budgeted 85,000 actually, so it was about a little over $2,000 less.
And when is the start and completion? Do you have?
It depends on when we can get the equipment. As soon as we order it, it should take about anywhere from now to 30 days. So once it arrives, then we'll make a plan with Capital Data to come and install the items in our buildings. So I would say a couple months. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Committee?
I'll make a motion to approve the networking and wireless project not to exceed $82,706.27 as noted.
I will second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the networking wireless project not only is this stuff out of date, but it's a security issue right now because it cannot be updated. So this is really the last part of our infrastructure that needs improvement, major improvement. And this will go to village board for final approval. Any other questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, benefit broker RFP.
So currently our benefit broker is R&R Insurance. We've been with them probably, I did some research to see how long we've been with them, and it seems like, places just got bought out over and over again. So we really haven't gone for an RFP in at least over 30 years. So I put 20 years here just to be on the safe side, but I'm thinking it's more like 30. So I think, just to see what else is out there and make sure that we're getting the best services for our time and dollars. I thought it was a good idea to go out for an RFP just to look at the other groups as well. If you approve this and let us go out for an RFP, then I'm going to bring it all the proposals before the wellness committee, or at least a portion of the wellness committee, to review and make sure, and bring them in for questions, and then make a decision that we put before GGF. So.
Aaron, how will this get distributed?
How
Who
does?
do you select to send it to?
Oh, so I have 3 people who I know want to be distributed to, but we would put it in the paper as well, so that if somebody else saw it and wanted to submit a proposal for the RFP, they could. I've also reached out to other communities to see where they've submitted theirs as well. So I have a couple others that I have about 5, I think, that I will probably just send it directly to. 3 proposals I definitely know we'll get back. So.
All right, and do we need to take any action, or is this just more for our information?
You don't really, it's just for your information.
That's what I thought. Is there any questions from the committee about the RFP? No? All right, great. Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward, and I think it's a great idea to go out for bid, since it's been at least 20 years. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move on to item C, American Rescue Plan update and ask, and that's this update and action. I apologize. So with that, we'll turn to Matthew Uselding for information.
Yep. In your packet is a memo I put together summarizing kind of the state of the ARPA plan, including all the projects that have been approved, the dollars spent against those projects, as well as the outstanding balance of the ARPA fund. What I tried to do in the original allocation column was put how we had those original buckets of different categories, and I tried to associate projects with that bucket. If you'll notice, the Maple Land and Hyssop and Highway 167, I put that under, the roads bucket. The Germantown Master Plan and Friedenfeld Master Plan, I put that under the recreation bucket. The bottom 4 didn't fit into any specific bucket, but were projects that were approved by the committee and board. On the second page of the ARPA memo are projects that staff is recommending are funded through ARPA, given that we have to have funds committed by the end of 2024.
All right, committee.
We have questions.
Yeah, Trustee Jan Miller.
Okay, Matt, if I remember correctly, we, at the cow meeting on your second page, at the cow meeting, the Altbauer tennis courts, the $60,000 was approved.
Correct. And so what you're seeing here is, that's a project that the village board planned on spending the money with ARPA funds, but there's not a contract that has been approved. So that's why it's in, this category. They're not committed funds in the sense that we haven't signed a contract saying this is what we're using those funds for. So that's how I determined committed versus, remaining.
On the front page, you only have 7 items that are committed in the committed column. So I'm a little confused. If you look on the first page,
Correct. So those are projects that were approved by the village board, where there is a contract in place, but there haven't been any funds spent yet. So for example, using the Axon, BWC and Taser, the village board said, yes, we're going to use ARPA to fund this contract, although we haven't been invoiced for that yet. So that's why there's no funds in the actual columns.
so it's given a total. So what I was really looking for, I had asked for an ARPA update for an agenda item, actually. And what I was looking for was an explanation. When are the dates that these items were approved? And I understand the actual paid out in 2022 and 2023. But I find this pretty hard to follow. And on the back, you have the Miller Communications public safety referendum on the second page, 50,000.
Correct.
And that was passed?
Correct. I think the intent at the time of the passage was to fund that through the police department and fire department budgets. But it's staff's recommendation that those funds are paid through ARPA and not the police and fire department's budgets.
I think that this needs a little bit of a closer look. I mean, I don't feel comfortable talking about what staff passed because the Altbauer was passed in committee. So I would think that ARPA funds should be passed by a committee.
I agree. As it relates to the Altbauer tennis courts, what that is simply saying is there's no contract in place. Those funds are technically not committed because there's no contract in place with someone to fix the Altbauer tennis courts. That does not mean there's not the intent to have a contract committed, which is why in my notes I put COW FY 2024 budget. It is the intent that we will use ARPA funds to fund that project, but they are not by the federal definition committed.
Oh, federal.
Right. By the federal definition, these funds have to be committed, meaning a contract has to be signed in place.
Understood.
Yep.
But what I'm saying, what I'm saying is, we need to have these vetted at committee level to make sure that they're passed.
Correct. Looking at the allocation of remaining funds, that list, any contract would still need to be brought before the committee and ultimately the village board to be approved. So in that sense, you're not approving, these projects and we have a contract with.
But
Go ahead.
we're not approving it for getting contracts for these things?
So looking at Altbauer tennis courts, the Park and Recreation Director will bring a contract forward to the
Right.
committee
Right.
to approve. Correct. So at some point that will come and you will approve that contract. Tonight, you won't be approving any specific contract in that sense.
But what you're looking for is the allocation, correct?
We're looking for, this is the direction we would like to move with these funds, essentially.
Yeah, I don't want to be locked into this. And you have building improvements at $500,000.
So that was the original bucket,
Correct.
and there's been nothing spent or committed, in that bucket.
Is it included in, I think I'm confusing committed with already approved or allocated.
So page 1 is already under contract.
Yeah.
Page 2, the first one is approved. All the rest are just recommendations.
They're approved, but There's,
Not approved. Only All Power Tennis Court is approved. PD Building Design, Division Road, Miller, none of those are approved yet. Those are recommended by staff. Hasn't gone through committee, hasn't gone through the village board. Those are just the recommendations of the staff that, for the usage of the funds, which have to be committed by the end of 24.
right.
Correct.
Well, I didn't agree with all the recommendations. That's all I'm saying. Oops, sorry.
And kind of just to follow up for building improvements, there's nothing approved, committed, or anything in that sense. That was just an original bucket that the village board had created. And I just wanted to illustrate that there's been no, that funds allocated or spent from that bucket.
And what about in our last meeting? And well, we don't have the minutes, but in the village board meeting on 12/18, we had a discussion about the balance of the ARPA funds being spent on Division Road, correct? So where is that on here?
On the backside or the second page, under Division Road, there's $100,000 recommended for scope and community engagement for Division Road. The village board can decide to use more or less than that, but that is the recommendation from staff.
Okay, but we passed the motion to use it for whatever balance is left to use for Division Road on 12/18. Trustee Baum made
I don't recall that, but
the motion.
That's fine.
Anyway, we don't have the minutes until the next meeting,
Right.
so this is why I feel like some things are missing. And I want to note that.
I don't remember committing $500,000 to Division Road out of
No, no, no.
ARPA funds.
Whatever was remaining.
Remaining is 555,000, oh, I'm sorry, 575, right?
Correct.
575, 750.
Bill, do you remember the meeting? Bill?
On Division Road?
Yes.
Nevertheless,
They were right
there's
together.
approximately $500,000 that is uncommitted yet. These are, like I said, just recommendations by the staff. So there's going to be a lot of discussion on what we do with that money moving forward.
Matthew, what do you need from us tonight on this? Is this just for information only at this point?
I put it as action, just given the sense, is there a desire by this committee to have these projects
Okay.
brought forward with
Okay.
contracts?
Knowing there's some confusion here on the committee level, I'm going to make a motion to postpone this till our next GGF meeting for more detailed further discussion. I'll wait for a second.
I'll second.
And then I think after saying that, I will tell you, I think that staff did a great job of singling out things. I wouldn't disagree with anything that you have on here. That's my opinion. I know we agreed with the Alvar tennis courts already, so that's done in my brain. Splash pad maintenance, I'm sure that might have come up at some point, and I maybe have just missed that meeting. But I think everything on here makes sense, and I think some really good thinking went into it. It's just my opinion.
Just for clarification, is it trustee Kaminsky? Is it okay to say per trustee Kaminsky to postpone this item into the next GGF?
GGF meeting,
Was it
exactly.
seconded by Jan Miller or?
Either one of us.
Either one
Doesn't
of us, right?
All right, we have a motion. Oh,
Can I just-
sorry, trustee Nyrather, before we vote.
I too am a little confused when I look at page 2. Both the Goldendale and the building design, I think are going to be actions or possible discussions by the village board tonight. So I think while they're okay to have on here, nothing has been finalized. And we really need them to do that before we could have acted on those amounts anyways. But going back to the first page, when you have the columns 2022 actual, 2023 actual, that's actual that has been allocated or spent? on that?
Spent.
Spent. Okay, could we then add another column that would say something to the effect like total balance or total remaining balance? I think that would save some confusion as well. Like, for instance, the top line under building improvements would be 500,000 allocated, and then total balance remaining, since nothing's been spent, 500,000.
It's at the bottom, says available balance 575, 750.
I understand that, but I'm going individually, Rick, in each category. So it runs all the way across.
Yeah, yes, I can certainly do that. I don't know if there's much benefit for that, as it relates to, the building improvements, there's nothing committed there. So in a sense, if we wanted to spend $500,000 on building improvements, then the available balance would go from 575 to just 75.
Well, you have a dumb trustee here that doesn't recognize it, so I think it wouldn't hurt to have it there.
Okay, I can
To be
add
real
that.
honest with you, and I don't think it's going to add.
Yep.
Simple formula should be able to calculate that out.
Yep, that one I got mastered in Excel. I can do that.
Plus, I think it's getting to the point here, this thing has been dragging on and on and on, that, is it to a point where, we should be dating this stuff to say this was approved whenever, and it includes this or whatever, because as time goes along here, memories, as we're seeing here tonight, memories are all slipping as to when this was approved or what does it include or whatever. So I think we need to get a little more detailed on this.
Okay.
Before I'm going to finalize or vote on anything.
All right, so you'd like a column of, approved by village board,
Yeah,
8, 15, 23.
I think that would be very beneficial, Matthew. So our memories are all fading.
And then it's referenced back to the minutes.
I'm done, Rick.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll find out. In my mind, the only thing that's approved on this thing is the 60,000 for the tennis court. All the rest is just recommended, and there's about $500,000 that's unallocated. So with that, we have a motion to postpone. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, with that, we will move on to item D, audio visual update. Who's taking this one?
That's gonna be me,
Oh, okay.
Trustee Miller. So I just wanted to give everybody a little update after what happened at the last Monday meeting that did not have sound options. So after that happened, I reached out to our current audio visual vendor or video vendor, and we had a meeting and a discussion about everything. I also sat down with a few other companies just to see what their options were. Right now, we don't have like a contract or anything about annual maintenance or anything like that. Currently, it's just I call Global Sight and Sound. They come in, take a look, do a few fixes here and there, or check different things to see what's going on. But they do that from 8 to 5. So, and every time we have a problem, it's after hours. So, so they did come in, Global Sight and Sound did come in and do some updates. We do have an older computer back in the back room. So that's one of the things that we, should probably update in the next year or so. However, my recommendation to this committee is that we do create a maintenance plan agreement that includes some after hours assistance, just because that always seems to be when it happens. We know what we're looking at between Brenton and myself, as well as a lot of other staff. We have a good understanding of the equipment in the back room and how it works. However, when things go wrong, usually it's an engineering thing that we can't fix. So that's my suggestion. I kind of wanted to hear from this committee to see what you guys feel. It works 99% of the time, but then, every once in a while, something happens where we just can't figure out how to make it work. So, and I'm not going to blame WebEx. I'm not going to blame, you know, internet. I'm not going to blame any of those things because I think in the long run, you know, it's always something different. It could be from a power outage. It could be from, you know, I mean, the list just is endless. So, so yeah, I just wanted to kind of hear from this group and see what your thoughts were and what you expect from staff, because I want to make sure that we're providing the best service from a audio visual end of things. So.
Aaron, when you say support agreement, is that for labor only? Are you looking at a support agreement that would cover the equipment or both?
So that's for labor only. So that's for, you know, somebody coming in maybe annually, looking over the equipment review. We don't have anybody doing that right now. So we don't have somebody coming in annually, reviewing our equipment, making sure it's working. We just have every time Global Sight and Sound, and we don't even have a written contract on this, but every time there's an issue, Global Sight and Sound does send somebody out to take a look at things. But, and if you guys are fine with the way the status quo of how things are going, that's fine. I'm just saying that if we want any more service or quicker support, or, you know, it's going to cost something. And so, and then I would feel more comfortable having a written agreement. This equipment is only about 3 years old. It's not very old. So you know, it shouldn't be malfunctioning quite as often as it does. We've already had to replace one of the pieces of equipment. We're on the third piece of equipment already. So you know, and it's
What's their hourly charge right now?
right now they do not charge us.
They don't.
No. But we don't have anything in writing that says this will ever continue. So, I mean.
That's surprising after 3 years. It really
Yeah.
is, but.
Mm-hmm. I agree too, you know. But yeah, that's why, you know, I think I would prefer going from what this decision this committee would make about me going forward with either looking to see what of our maintenance options would be annually. I do have, I'm not sure how this was handled when it was first installed, but we didn't have like the programming files and stuff, which is like the majority cost of putting in an audiovisual system. I do have that now. So I have that and the schematic scheme, you know, layout of what the equipment, where it's placed and what it looks like. So I do have those things on file.
My 2 cents, I think we should look into getting some type of contract with service level agreements on it with, you know, response times for this and after hours, which is what the majority of our meetings and the usage is for these. So it would make sense to have that after hours.
Yeah.
But I'd like comments from the committee as well. Trustee Nyrider?
I agree 100% with you. I think that'd be an excellent idea.
Okay, then I'll go and get a few quotes, you know, in regards and have that, you know, I'm not sure what I'm gonna, you know, if it's gonna be, you know, attend a couple meetings or be available after hours, you know, for this many hours or something like that, but I'll figure something out and bring it back to this committee, okay?
Okay.
Okay,
Any other comments? Trustee Jan Miller?
I agree. We need to have the audiovisual working during the meeting, and we need to have somebody taking care of it after hours, which is after 5 o'clock. That's, I agree, our meetings. So I agree. But one of the things I wanted to ask, are you looking for support only in the labor and then just keep the equipment? Or are you thinking about switching out the computer that seems to be a little old and getting it updated to maybe the same type of computer that you use in the office area? I don't know what you have back there.
It's going to be a little bit of both, right? So I did have a couple other vendors come in and take a look at our equipment, and they said our equipment should last like at least 10 years. So So I don't really think it's too much of like the audio visual equipment, but you're right. That computer in the back has to be updated. But I don't think that's been the main point of our issues that have been going on. So, but we did have, so just so everybody knows, I mean, our former IT provider, Steve, set a lot of this stuff up, right? And so there were no notes about how it was set up or to what frequency or consistency. So it was kind of hard for us to figure some of those things out.
Understood.
Any other comments? All right, Aaron, I think that's it. You've bring something back and yeah, we'll take a look at it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys.
All right, thank you. With that, we'll move on to reports. Item A, accounts payable. There are quite a few in our packet. Is there any questions or comments about accounts payable? Check runs. Nothing?
Oh. No. Wait. No, here it's,
Sure, there'll be more on budget to actual.
right.
All right, if there's nothing, we'll move on to the year-to-date budget report, budget to actual, and the first one is December. That is the one is in here, right? You don't have this.
The one that's in here is 2024.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yep, I got it. Sorry. My brain was going to 23. Oh, I'm sorry, trustee Nyriser.
That's
Question, I looked at page 141. I'll wait for you to get there.
Is that 141 of the packet?
Yes.
I don't have the packet in front of me. Could you give me the page of the budget report?
I'm sorry, I wrote these down. It would be pretty much toward the front.
Okay.
It was under the, not that I'm picking on Steve, under the administrator.
I have the budget report. Let me just get there real quick.
141 is page
You want to count?
4. It's page 4.
4. Got it.
Okay, I'm there.
And with this, and this is for the entire year of 2024, would this be expenses, revenues through the entire month of January, or January hasn't closed yet? Or,
It'd be as of last Friday.
okay. So for instance, I looked under, let me look at my notes here. Administrators' health insurance was 27,860. The revised budget was 27,860. The year-to-date actual is 23,920, leaving a balance of, it said here,
25.
25,467.
Yep.
That would be like for 1 month, am I correct? Or through that period up to February, whatever that date was?
Correct, up to last Friday.
Okay. Then I'm reading it right, but then if you go to salary under that category, it was listed, but there was no year-to-date actual.
Correct. So what we have to do for that is we're doing journal entries for salaries. Since we're still doing salaries in MSI,
Okay.
we have to do a journal entry. And by looking at it, we haven't done a journal entry yet for the
Okay.
salaries
That makes sense.
year to date.
Yep, thanks.
All right, any other questions on budget?
One on. Oh, yeah. My question is on page 140 or 3, just above where we were. So I just want to understand, see if I understand this correctly. Village Board Legal Services, our original approved budget was 60. Year-to-date actual was 9,364. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
So, how can we, I thought we were doing, monthly reports, so I was trying to figure out if this was on target for meeting budget on an annualized basis, like if you divide it by 12, right?
Right.
So now we're looking at, this report is actually 6 weeks, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Roughly 6 weeks as of last Friday, sometime in the afternoon.
Okay. Is that what we looked at before? With the other system, MSI?
Yep. It was all year to date as of, the Friday before the board
The
meeting.
meeting?
Correct.
Oh, okay. And would this be the only place that legal would be in?
Nope. There'd be one in the TIDS as well.
Okay.
And I don't recall if there's any line item in water and sewer. I haven't gotten an invoice for water and sewer legal, so I'm guessing not.
And then I think you told us that there's a line item for Richfield IGA. What would that be under?
That's going to be in Fund 40.
Warning.
There's going to be a revenue and expense line. I don't have, let's see if I can find it for you here.
Oops. Lost it.
Got to be towards the back, isn't it?
Is it after the general fund?
Yeah, it's after the funds are listed in order, so it's going to go 10 and then through that way it's 40.
All right, let me see.
Just struggling to pull it up. But there should be there's two Richfield lines. There's gonna be a revenue and then there's an expense. So we're charging all, expenses obviously to the expense line. And then when we invoice Richfield, for that amount, that'll show up in the revenue line. So they should offset. We'll track it that way.
Why are we invoicing Richfield? You mean for water?
No, for like consultant services, construction
Administration.
services,
Right.
and administration. Yep. So how it is set up is, we're paying the, contractor or, for our time, and then we keep track of that, and then we're going to send an invoice to Richfield to recoup those costs.
Monthly.
Monthly or quarterly. It probably depends on the dollar amount.
Yeah, I'd like to understand that. Could you find out?
Yeah. I know we're planning on invoicing them this week or next week once we generate the invoice in Munis.
So any invoicing for Richfield IGA would have been for 2023 would have been done last year.
No, we haven't invoiced them at all yet. We're planning on invoicing them this week.
This will be the first.
This will be the first.
Correct.
My questions.
All right, sounds good. Anybody else? We'll move on to payroll, and payroll's still in MSI and working on the transition now, correct?
Correct. Myself and the senior deputy treasurer spent the last 3 days doing some parallels in Munis. A little bumpy, mostly just making sure all the deductions are working correctly. So, if someone's getting deducted for life insurance, that it's looking the same way in Munis that does in MSI. So it's just going through, each employee and making sure those deductions are correct. And when you have 500 some employees in there, it just takes a little bit of time. But we're pretty confident that we're going in the right direction. I think we got 90 to 95. It's just the one-off cases where their deductions a little bit different than everybody else that we're just working through some of those. So.
Other questions? Okay, with that, let's set our next meeting date, which should be the 18th. Is that everybody okay with the 18th? All right, so it'll be Monday, March 18th. And with that, we will adjourn at 6:51. Thank you.